Okay guys, so if you're watching this video, you've either purchased or you're thinking about purchasing one of my retro game machines. That is right here in my hands. That's what you get. This is the new packaging that you can see here. This machine here in the front, this looks like a little Nintendo NES cartridge. This is your game machine. On this device is thousands of preloaded games. Everything from Atari 2600 to Super Nintendo. You guys have seen the NES Classics. They're selling them online. Scalpers are getting anywhere between 150 and 250 for the real thing, and they only have 30 NES games on it. This has 3,000. Everything Nintendo NES ever made, preloaded onto it. Everything Super Nintendo made, preloaded onto it. Everything from Atari 2600 to Super Nintendo. Guys, there's 3,000 plus games downloaded directly onto this machine. This is full HDMI, hooks up to your flat screen TV. It's got everything in it that you need. Your HDMI cables there, your power cord, your video cable, everything you need to operate it is inside of this box. You take it home, you take everything out, you plug it in, you hook it up, it's ready to go. This video is going to walk you through everything you need to know about this machine. I'm going to tell you everything about it. I'm going to do my best to provide you with all the information you need. You have my information, my phone number, and my website, and if you need anything else from me, if you have any kind of problems with it whatsoever, you have anything that goes wrong with it, if you can't figure it out, if you're getting stuck, give me a call. Talk to me. I'm more than happy to help you. If you do have any problems with it within a reasonable amount of time, if it breaks, if it just blows up on you, bring it back into me. I'll fix it, I'll replace it, I'll repair it on the spot for you. So guys, we'll get started with the video now. I appreciate your business. I want you to come in and see me again. Thank you very much. Have a great day. So this is your retro game machine. This is what you get. This is your package. Everything you need is contained within inside of this package here. And I'm going to show you exactly what you're getting, exactly what's inside of this box. So when you get it, you want to open it up. Take out, first of all, your game machine is right here. It has the little power cord is attached to it. I'm going to take that out of the box. Then you have, this is your brand new HDMI cable, and your controller, which is just, looks like a Super Nintendo controller, but it's USB on the end. So any wired USB controller is going to work for you, and we'll go more in depth with that at a later date. This is your power supply. This unit is you're going to plug into the wall, and that is your source of power for the device. In this box, I'm also including a little instruction manual. If you need any help, the instructions there for you. A little bit of a troubleshooting guide on it. And also all of my contact information, my website, my Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channel, and of course my phone number on there if you need to give me a call. Otherwise, included, obviously, the video that you're watching now that walks you through exactly what you need to know about this system. So that's it. That's what's included in the package. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how to hook it up and how to play it. Okay, so I want to show you how you need to hook this machine up. Now it's pretty simple, but there's one thing you need to know. If you hook the power supply up before you hook everything else up, it won't do anything. So you'll notice that really quick that you've done something wrong. It's not going to blow it up, it's not going to fry it, but you know, the power supply you want to plug in last. Now you can go ahead and take this, which is your power brick, which is going to go right into your outlet, and plug this into the wall. That's step number one. Then you want to take your USB end of your controller, whichever controller you're using, and plug that into your first controller port, which is the furthest to the left after the HDMI cable. The HDMI cable, one end of it goes right into the machine. It fits kind of tight in there, just make sure it's all the way in. And then the other end, of course, goes into the back of your TV. Now make sure that your TV is on the correct HDMI setting. Make sure that if you're using HDMI 1, you plug it into HDMI 1, that your TV is set on HDMI 1. Lots of TVs have different HDMI inputs, so just make sure that you have the correct HDMI input. Then after you have those two things connected, go ahead and plug in your power cord that comes off of the bottom of the system here, and plug that right into the back of this power strip that you just plugged into the outlet. And that will power everything on. You'll see a blue light on the bottom of the machine, and you'll see a bunch of words starting to come up onto the screen. Just kind of let it do its thing. It takes a minute for it to boot up, and you'll be all set to go. So now that you have your system hooked up, I'm showing you what's going to happen now on the screen as you boot the device up. So you're going to see a series of a few different screens here that come up. On the left hand side, it's just telling you that everything is okay. You should see a bunch of green OKs, and then a bunch of random words there to the right of them. And you should see that everything says okay. If something says fail, something's wrong with the device. If you have any issues like that, like I say, if you have any problems at all, give me a call, come back in and see me. I'll fix it, I'll replace it on the spot. So shouldn't have any fails on the left hand side there, but if you do see any and you're having any issues, just bring it in to me and I'll take care of it for you. So this process does take about a minute or so for it to load up, maybe about a minute and a half, so you just have to be a little patient with it. It's basically a little computer in there, so it's thinking, it's booting up just like your computer would boot up at the house, so it's just kind of the same kind of process in that. So emulation station is loading, which is where we want to be to start picking our games. If we give it just a minute, we'll be ready to go. Okay, so now our device is booted up for the first time, and I know that this is a little hard to see through trying to film this television set here, but this little box that shows up says configure input, one gamepad detected, and hold your A button on your device to configure it. So that's what we're going to have to do. Now, when you get your device, I've already configured this controller that you get with it. I've already configured that for you, so you won't see this configure input sign. But whenever you put in a new controller, this is what's going to come up automatically. And at any time, you can press your start button on this main screen and go down to configure input and reconfigure your controller at any time. If you don't like the way it's set up or you want to set it up differently, you can do that at any time just by pressing your start button on this main menu and going down to configure input. And this is how this is going to work. It's very simple, guys. So you're going to press your A button for just a second or two and hold it in and let it go. You're going to come up to your configuring screen, and it's going to tell you on your buttons what you need to push. It's going to tell you for your D-pad up, your D-pad down, left, right. You need to sync those buttons in place. So it's very simple. We're going to push up on the D-pad, down on the D-pad, left on the D-pad, and right on the D-pad. We're going to press our start button, our select button, our A button, our B button, our X button, and our Y button. Now you're going to press your left shoulder and your right shoulder. Now, since this controller doesn't have any other buttons, like a PS3 button would have triggers, Xbox 360 would have triggers, you don't have that on this device. So you're just going to press and hold down any button for about a second and a half and then release it. And that's going to skip down past all of this. You don't have any thumbs, thumb controls, you don't have any analogs, so we don't have to do any of that. We're just going to press down our button for a couple seconds and let it go, couple seconds and let it go, couple seconds and let it go. That's going to skip all the way down to the bottom of the screen. Now at the very bottom you see something there that says hotkey enable. You don't need to worry about that either, so you're just going to press your button in for a couple seconds and skip past that. When you get to your OK button, you're going to press your A button, and then it's going to say you didn't choose a hotkey. That's okay. We don't need to worry about that. And then we're going to press our A button in for 2 or 3 seconds, and then we're going to let it go. And I know it looks like it's not doing anything, but it is. It just takes a little bit of time, and then that's all you have to do. So after that, what's going to come up is this main screen. That's what's going to automatically come up for you after that. Or you'll just have to push your B button a couple times to get out of it if the other box is still up there in front of you. Just remember that your B button is back and your A button is advance. So that'll kind of help you navigate a little bit better. Now, as far as navigating the screen, left and right on your D-pad, that's all you have to do. You see all the systems there. You're just basically going to choose your platform. Whatever you want to play is what you do next to choose whichever game you want to play. So let's say we want to start with the Nintendo NES, which was one of my favorite game systems as a kid. You see we have all 886 games available for Nintendo, so it's a little bit more updated than what you may have had before, may have seen earlier in some of my other videos. We're just going to press our A button, and now we're into the Nintendo, and we can go down with just the D-pad. If you hold it in, it will go a little bit faster, but if you want to go really fast, you could press your right bumper, and that'll go fast forward, or your left bumper will go fast backwards. So you just want to get to any game that you want to play. Contra is always a good choice. You say you want to play Contra, you can see on the right hand side it tells you a little bit about Contra, tells you a little bit about the game, and shows you a screenshot of what the cartridge boxing looks like on the game itself. So to select it, we're just going to press our A button, and you're going to give it a couple seconds here, and it's going to load right up for you. And it's as simple as that. Now, some of the games you might remember that you've got to press your start button to actually start playing. I mean, that's how it was back in the day, so it's still like that. So there we go, and we're ready to play the game. Anytime you get tired of a game and you decide you want to get out of the game and you don't want to play the game anymore, you're just going to press your start button and your select button at the same time. That's going to take you right back out of it, just like that. And that's all you have to do to back out of a game. So in the next section now, we're going to talk about the saving ability that this system has, which is really interesting. And then we'll talk about troubleshooting a little bit, and then I'll also give you some of my contact information if you need that again. So I appreciate you watching. So when I was a kid, Batman was one of my absolutely favorite games for the Nintendo NES. It's not everybody's game, not everybody loves it, but me and actually my cousin from California, we played this game for hours and hours, and I just love this game, and always have, but I never could beat it. Back in the day, you would get so far into the game, and then you would die, and that's it. You have to try again. There was no ability to save a game. There was nothing else you could do. If you got hit so many times and you lost all your lives, that was it. Now, the cool thing about Batman, actually, is that you can just keep playing and playing and playing. Your lives don't ever end, but it gets so hard that you just can't hardly get through some of these levels. So I'm going to tell you the most interesting thing about this system is the ability it has to save your game. Now, not only does it have the ability to save your game, but it has the ability to save it at any point within the game that you'd like to save it. Which means, if I'm playing this game here, and I know, let's just imagine that there's a boss just right up ahead of me, and I've tried to beat this boss 100 million times, and I just can't beat it. And it's such a long way to get to exactly where I'm at in this point in the game. Then here's what you're going to do. Now we're going to create a save state in this game. In order to do that, you're going to press your right bumper and your select button at the same time. So if you press your right bumper and select, that creates a save state. you can see down at the bottom left hand corner it says save state, 100% saved. Now if you go a little bit further in the game and you know that this guy is just going to whip you and you can't get past him and you almost get killed, or you know you're about to die, or even maybe right as you die, now you can go right back to that save spot that you was just in by pressing your left bumper and your select button at the same time. Takes you right back to that exact point in time that you created that save state. Now you're going to have to get used to doing this because it's a little complicated if you're not used to it. And you're going to mess up, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to end up overwriting some of these save states that you didn't want to overwrite, and you're going to create yourself some headaches when you first start messing with this. But if you can get it down and get it figured out to where you can create those save states, it's really interesting when you know you get all the way to this point in the game and you're about to die, and you can just press your left bumper and your select and go right back. Whoops, and go right back to that last spot you was just at. And the most interesting thing about it too is that you see how I just accidentally backed out of that game by mistake, and you're probably thinking, oh man, you know, I just did all of that for nothing. And if it was a real Nintendo and you would have accidentally hit the reset, you would have just lost it all. But the good thing is that in this game you can press your left bumper and your select button and go right back to that same exact spot, even after you've shut the game off and you've came back, even after you shut the system down, even after you've unplugged it and you plug it back in, you can still go back to that save point in the game. It's actually saved that onto the memory card of the device itself. Now you can do this for this game, you can do this for another game, you can do this for all 3,000 plus games that are on this device, and save a save state for each individual game that you have on here. So it's not like you have to do the Batman game and save it until you beat it and then you got another save file. You can do a save file for every single game that's on here. You can have one for Batman and one for every other game that's on this device. So that makes it really, really interesting when you start to think about the possibilities of what that could do for you. That really makes this device a whole lot cooler than just being able to play these games. Now you can actually beat some of these games that you could never beat before as a kid because they were just way too hard. I mean, most people talk about Contra and how hard Contra is if you don't have the cheat code, you know, to get 30 lives. Well, now you don't even need the cheat code because you have infinite lives. You can just create yourself a save state wherever you want until you get past that level that you could never get past before. And if you get so far and then you're doing good, then you create yourself a new save state. And then you'll never go back past that point. So it's really interesting. It's really going to help you out, and that's really going to make your gaming experience a whole lot better when it comes to this versus the original gameplay. I mean, just imagine playing Mario now and being actually able to save Mario right before the boss level and going back to World 8-4 every time and starting there until you beat the game. So it really opens up a lot of possibilities for the gaming on this device. So now I want to tell you a little bit about troubleshooting. There are going to be some games that you'll find that do not work properly or do not work right. You know, to put it bluntly, the reason is just because there is so much programming that goes into this device and so many games. There is no way for me to be sure of every single game working with the correct emulator until you kind of get into it and figure, oh, hey, this game doesn't work. So it's no big deal, and I'm going to show you how to very quickly solve that problem. So one of my the first things I always mention or talk about is Paperboy. For some reason, Paperboy does not run correctly until you fix this emulator, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. So you see now that you've chosen to play Paperboy and nothing happens. You're pressing your start button, you're pressing your buttons, nothing's happening. It's just running through the the program display of the game, but you're not able to choose anything or do anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to back out of this game by pressing our start and select button together. And when you get back to the main screen again here, you see Paperboy. Now this time we're going to select Paperboy by pressing our A button. And as soon as this little box pops up in the middle of the screen, I want you to press your A button a few times in a row until you see the box kind of jump up. Now when you do, you're going to see another box in front of a blue screen. And when you see that, what I want you to do is go down to number 2, and it says Select Emulator for ROM. That's all you have to do. So once you get there, you're just going to press your A button, and you're going to go down to number 2, which is IR Nestopia, and you're going to press your OK button. Then after that, I want you to go all the way down to the bottom that says Exit Without Launching. Once you do that, you come back up to your screen again. Now I just want you to press Paperboy again and let it load this time. This time it's going to work for you, no problem at all. So if you have a problem with any game not working right or not coming up at all, change the emulator. And the way to do that is the way I just showed you, and that's going to save you a little bit of time and effort. You know, if something like that happens on one of the game doesn't sound right, it doesn't look right, change the emulator. That's how you change the emulator. And a lot of times that's going to help you. Now, unfortunately, there are some games that just don't run right. Unfortunately, the games for the Game Boy Advance I just had to take off here because they just did not run correctly. There wasn't any point in keeping them on here when they just sounded really bad and ran really slowly. The same with N64. A lot of people ask me why don't you have N64 games on here. Unfortunately, it just cannot handle the N64 games. Everything from Atari to Super Nintendo, but nothing post Super Nintendo era, at least right now, is going to be able to work with the size of this device and the capacity it has. But I can tell you, Yoshi's Island for the Super Nintendo, it's rough. It runs, but the sound is kind of garbled and it doesn't really run well. But you know, 90-95% of these games, or even better than that, are going to run perfectly fine. So if you do come across a game that doesn't seem to be running perfectly, you know, you can change the emulator to try to combat that and try to fix that problem, but there is a chance that it's just not going to run perfectly. But most do. Most games, especially Atari, Nintendo, they play perfectly fine, just as they did back in the day. They sound exactly the same, they run exactly the same, and you'll have a great gaming experience on them. So that's the biggest point I want to make about the that situation. And the only other errors that I've ever had is somebody using a power supply that is different than the one I gave them. So please make sure that you are plugging your power source into the power source that I gave you and not something else, not one of your phone chargers or nothing else. Make sure you use the power brick that I gave you with the device, and you're going to be much better off. So that is the way to go about doing that. The only other thing I want to tell you is, as far as troubleshooting, is the RetroPie configuration. If you are having sound issues, if your sound is not working, you can go into your audio in the RetroPie. That's up at the very top of the list here in the RetroPie, and let that boot up. And it might take a little bit of time to do so, but when it does, you can go down to HDMI and set your audio output to HDMI. Now, if you're not using HDMI, which you should be, because I'm not sure that the converters that'll convert this back over to AV are actually going to work very well with this, you may have to change your audio inputs for that reason. But what I would tell you is do not let your kids get a hold of this and get into this settings, because these are where your files are held. This is all of your Raspberry Pi configuration. You know, if somebody gets in there and starts changing stuff around, you might find that the item doesn't work in the morning. So make sure that your kids are respectful with your item, and they know what to do and what not to do, so that they're not getting in and destroying your little computer here, because this is basically what it is a little tiny computer, and there are settings and setups on a computer just like there are your laptop or your home PC at home. So you got to treat it as such. It could be ruined, it could be messed up, but simply by somebody going in and changing all the configs and all the settings and all the setups in the device, and then the setups don't run anymore, and then your device doesn't work. So like I said, if you do have a problem, come and see me. I just don't want you to have to come and see me every week, because you're either you or your kids are getting in there and changing files around and switching stuff up and ruining your device. I'd be more than happy to fix it for you, but you don't want to have me fix it all the time, and I don't want to have to do that either. But that's the thing to tell you about the sound. That's the only thing I know about the troubleshooting. That's the only other issues that I've ever came across. A game's not working properly, just go in and change the emulators. Other than that, you should be pretty well all set, and that should take care of it for you. Guys, I want to thank you for your purchase. I want you to visit my website at www.mattsvintagevideogames.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/mattsvintagevideogames. Follow us on Twitter at mattsvvg. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, or give me a call, 513-888-55.